back to talk to you about the nodes this time around. And I just mean back because I haven't made a video for this channel in a while. I have been making videos on the Relationship and Astrology channel, and you should check it out because my colleague Margaret Gray and I do weekly forecasts and other cool stuff, and it's very good stuff, and you should be following that. You'll like it. But this time we're going to talk just about the nodes of the moon, the points where the orbits of the sun and the moon cross. Now, the nodes, some aspects are kind of like it's all about us personally. Sometimes there's aspects that affect us personally, and sometimes there's aspects that affect us collectively. They at least tend to be more collective in nature. And the nodes sort of sit right in between. The nodes are kind of connection points where our personal lives and the collective sort of overlap or come together. We don't think about some things like, you don't think about the local neighborhood, you don't think about the weather, you don't think about so many things that really have a great determination of what your experience is like. Well, the nodes of the moon are like that. They go through different signs and they give us some overt things to deal with, but really they set a tone that we have to work with. Now, it'll be easiest to understand the nodes if we look at the previous signs that they were in. The north node was in Virgo and the south node was in Pisces. Now, the north node is what we're pulled towards. It's the difficult task, and yet the one that is more rewarding. And the North Node in Virgo was about service. It was about a little bit of restraint. It was about caring, and it was about being able to heal. Now, the North Node in Virgo echoed the fact that the royal star Regulus has progressed into Virgo sometime within the last 10 years. So it's the North Node's first stopover since Regulus has got into Virgo and sort of shifted the emphasis towards all things Virgoan. The North Node in Virgo was joined by Jupiter for the first year, and that kind of also signaled the importance of Virgoan themes. So the idea, after Jupiter had gone through Leo and, perhaps sort of pumped up some grandiosity, the shift happened to allow us to focus a little bit more on service and a little bit more on restraint, a little bit more on health, taking care of ourselves, the environment, bodies, and so on. Now, to the extent that we weren't successful, to the extent that we haven't lived the Virgo life, as it were, we may find ourselves being pulled towards the South Node in Pisces. Now, there's some good stuff about the South Node in Pisces, but, we only have a few minutes here, so let's just get right to the chase. The South Node in Pisces is the fear of dissolution, the fear that we personally or perhaps collectively are going to dissolve. And the Saturn-Neptune square, Neptune's in Pisces, sort of stoking up some of these issues. Anyway, the fear that we would dissolve was the fear that was behind a lot of things that happened over the last 18 months. This sense of, when you fear you're going to dissolve, sometimes the reaction is extreme. Okay, so the issue of the South Node in Pisces, really the issue of Neptune in Pisces that really demonstrates this most clearly, I think, is the immigration crisis, which is sweeping across the world. It's certainly very prominent in Europe and in the United States. And so there's this fear that if we accept immigration, if we accept immigrants, then maybe we will dissipate and dissolve our own culture. And that is, we have to think about it. If you're in a democracy, you have to have people that will be, willing to play by democratic rules. And there's a little bit of fear that goes in there. Some of it may be legitimate on a political level, and yet we're talking about the planets, and the planets, they're trying to show us something a little bit different. And I think that, we have to realize that in a process that is perhaps longer and more drawn out and perhaps more painful than any of us really want it to be, there will be a dissolution of a lot of things, so that, when groups come in, there is a change in the culture that hosts them, but there's also a change in the group that is hosted. And so the dissolution and the fear of dissolution and the reactions to it go in both directions. And I think that is something that we can kind of learn if we pay enough attention to this particular issue. In our personal lives, too, I think that there is also this sort of theme of dissolution and the fear of dissolution that was quite prominent for the last 18 months. Again, the Saturn-Neptune square of 2016, that was pretty much about dissolving and then, as a result, reconstructing a reality. And Saturn in Sagittarius sort of made it a belief-based reality. I think belief is accepted now. Not necessarily religious belief, but religious belief if that's what you're into. But, facts, that's the whole fake news, post-truth, no matter how you look at it from either side of, well, from any side of any issue. The trouble is that people are just not so interested in actual facts as they are in opinions and beliefs. And that's a little bit of a problem, isn't it? So that was the Virgo North Node saying, hey, maybe we can really take care of ourselves and our planet. And that was the Pisces South Node saying, oh my God. And, each of us sort of met the challenge as we could. The idea was to be a little bit conservative, a little bit, not politically, but a little conservative, a little bit restrictive, have a little bit of restraint over the last couple of years. You may have succeeded, you may have not. Now, the nodes shift into the Aquarius Leo axis. So the North Node is in Leo and the South Node is in Aquarius. So we might see some of the darker side of Aquarius. Now, what is the darker side of Aquarius? Well, it's a group sign, a collective sign, a very principled and very idealistic sign. And sometimes when things are not meeting up to an ideal, the response can be rather cold. And that's what we need to be, I wouldn't say worried about, but that's a little thing to be concerned about. The South Node in Aquarius can be a real problem with what we might call peer pressure, but peer pressure on a very large level, peer pressure on a societal level. And that was something that we need to be very aware of. What is the North Node in Leo? Now, when Jupiter was in Leo, I was very big on saying a little grandiosity here, a little pomposity at times, not from everybody, but from some people. There would be some of that. All right, well, what about when the North Node goes into Leo? Well, North Node goes into Leo, that symbolizes a time of following your heart, having a heart-centered approach. Okay, you say, that's easy. The Virgo thing with service was a little bit difficult, but I could follow my heart. Maybe. But the thing is, it's not about following your ego. It's not about doing whatever you want. It's not about having that sort of ego-centered approach to things. It's about having a heart-centered approach to things. Can you do that? Can you do that? Can you follow your heart? Or are you going to sort of slip into that South Node in Aquarius and get a little bit of the dark side of it that way? It's a challenge. It's a challenge. And it's one that we're going to have to meet over the next 18 months. Good luck, and I'll see you soon.